Hi, this is Chuck.
And this is Karen.
And this is our show,
What If It Really Works?
A Practical Guide to Spirituality. And Karen, who is this woman?
Well, today our guest is Loanne Mayer, and she is a very special lady. She has written a book called Celestial Conversations, Healing Relationships After Death. That's not all she's done, because she has had 30 years in the healing industry, and she has 6 children. Mm-hmm. She's a student of the Course in Miracles and Edgar Cayce, as well as a Reiki master. And for 12 years, she taught the Louise Hayes Healing Your Life course. Inspired by her training with Alma Daniels to teach angel meditation, Loanne produced and hosted a television show entitled Angels at Work, which emphasized the good works of ordinary people. She also wrote and presented her own course, Choosing Joy, How to Create a Joy-Filled Life. Today, she's committed to helping others, and we are so grateful for the work that she has done with this book, because I believe it will help a lot of other people.
That's my prayer.
That is my prayer. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Karen.
So, Loanne, you come from a religious background that more or less includes angels as a matter of fact.
Yes.
But in the Protestant tradition, 40 years ago, nobody even talked about angels. Mm-hmm. What's happened about angels in the last 40 years?
Well, I think for people like myself, angels are the kind of thing that you held close to your heart, but you didn't talk about. As I had children and grandchildren, I was much more comfortable talking about angels. I also remember when I was a child, I had pneumonia 7 times. And one of those times I do remember very clearly angels around me. I don't remember more than that. But they were very comforting. And so as I had children and grandchildren who were going through difficult things, like one of our grandchildren was diagnosed with cancer at 9 months, talking about angels with little people or older people doesn't really matter. It's comforting, it's safe, it's the sort of thing that makes everybody comfortable. From my point of view, the angel work kind of spilled into the crafts area. Angels became very popular in cards, and people started talking about it more. I think it's a great thing. I don't hear it as much today as I have in the past 20 years, but I think that's because we've incorporated angelic characteristics within the people that have heard about angels.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a very interesting concept, because I do remember that for maybe it's been 10 years or that
maybe more
or 15, because before that everybody, I mean, we went through that phase of, but I think that it needed to bring it to the consciousness of the world, so it needed to be a lot, and then all of a sudden, we know they're there. We don't, I try to explain to people, ask for their help. That's what they're there for. They're there to protect you whenever you have issues that come up that, could be detrimental to you, or to help you with your decision-making process. But you just have to be willing. You have to open your heart enough to allow them to assist you.
And I think sometimes people are more apt to talk about an experience that they had an angel connection. I remember a friend of mine years ago talking about how she had an angelic visit when she was 5 years old that made such an impression on her that she kept talking about it. A lot of times years ago in the 70s and 80s, people would have the experience, but they didn't know where to talk. They didn't know who to talk to. I did a workshop one time, and there was a gentleman who was in Korea who was at the workshop, and he told the most wonderful story about something that happened to him in Korea, and his wife was sitting next to him, and she said, "You never told that to anybody in public before." I mean, she knew of it, but he felt safe because there were like 50 people there who were there to talk about angel meditation. So I think, it's just kind of rolled out into a place where we talk about things like angels and guides and consciousness moving and talking to people who have died, I think we are in the most wonderful time because we can talk about it. And many of us, myself included, wouldn't have brought that up at the PTA.
Exactly.
Yeah, just wouldn't have done it.
And you even facilitate groups that are called Celestial Circles.
I do.
And this is about people learning how to communicate with their
with their loved ones who've passed. When I started doing this, Karen, I did it primarily for myself because I had been asked to write the book by a number of people, and I just felt what I had to say was just too personal. And I didn't think anybody would be able to do what I was doing, and I didn't care because it was helping me. But when my editor said to me, if you will write it, I will edit it, I said to her, I really have to go out and find out if other people can do this, because what's the point of writing it if nobody else can use it? So I started, actually here in Texas, I started what I called workshops at the time, and I invited people to invite people who had lost someone who were interested in journaling, just to try it on for size, like you go to Macy's and try on a dress, you know. And to my delight, the people who were part of the workshop got things that were helpful to them. You could see it in their faces, you know. So I continued doing that when I went back to New Jersey. I used that as part of what you're seeing in the book there, because when I do my journaling, I write pen to paper. It would never occur to me to use a computer. But in my workshops, some people said, you know, I find it easier on the computer. Or I had a certain place where I did my meditation and my prayer, and my pencil and pad were right there. Some people said if I'm out in nature, if I'm sitting in the park, I can do a better job. Some people in the workshop said, I get pictures, is that all right? And I thought, boy, if I could write a picture and draw something. So it taught me enough to add into the next workshop and the next workshop. And now when I do it, I invite people who are ready and not afraid to come and talk with loved ones who have passed to join us. And it creates this safe space, a place where you could talk about it even if you were afraid to tell your children or your husband. And in my case, I didn't tell a single person for about 4 months. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing because I didn't want them to tell me it wouldn't work. And that's why I love the name of your interviews, What If It Really Works? And so when I found out that it did work, I told my husband, I told my grief counselor that I had at the time, I told people in Compassionate Friends, and a few special people that I had met along the way. And they told people. So the workshops just grew. I never really asked for it. They just kind of grew. And what I found is, sadly, grief has reached epidemic proportions. There is so much grief in this world. And so many of us who are going through a grief experience, we need lots of tools. And what I say is that this book, this transpersonal journaling, is a good screwdriver in the toolkit. And it can help some people to move forward. It can help other people to go back and read what they were feeling and how they are feeling now. It has many, many gifts, and it's not just for me. And actually, when I was writing, I asked my mother and my daughter if they felt that this is something I should do, because I'd never written a book and had no desire to do so, honestly. But they said it would help millions. And if that's what we're here for, to help other people, then I said, if I can find the editor, and if I can find the place, and I can find a publisher, I asked for it all to be brought to me, because I didn't know anybody who had written a book. And they all came.
Of course.
Yeah, they all came.
So would you like to share how the original situation came to you to start journaling? Because your mother made her transition, and there had been rough communications that you'd had with your mother throughout your lifetime.
Yes. Well, what happened to me, I had been probably, by the time Mother died, probably about 30 years into teaching different forms of the mind, body, spirit. So, and I had helped a number of people. The only person that I couldn't help was my mother.